Commander Wu Jin stared at the strange readings on his screen. For 3 weeks, his deep space monitoring station had picked up signals that made no sense. They came from empty space, far beyond Earth's moon. But the patterns looked almost like communication. "Nari, come look at this," he called to Dr. Kim Nari, who was working at the next console. She was the best scientist on the station, someone who could make sense of things that confused everyone else. Nari walked over and studied the data. Her eyes grew wide. "Jin, these aren't natural signals. Someone is talking out there." "That's what I thought too. But who?" Neither of them knew they were right. High above Earth, hidden by technology beyond human understanding, alien ships watched and waited. They had been watching for 50 years. The largest ship belonged to High Arbiter Kethmos of the Vextar Empire. He looked like a giant insect, with 4 arms and eyes that could see in many different colors. His people had ruled parts of the galaxy for thousands of years. They were smart, careful, and liked everything to be organized and predictable. Kethmos stood in his command center, watching screens that showed Earth below. His smaller eyes focused on cities full of humans going about their daily lives. They had no idea they were being studied like insects under glass. "The humans have launched another rocket," reported his aide, a younger Vextar named Zixtal. "This one carries what they call a Mars rover." Kethmos clicked his mandibles together, a sign he was worried. "Show me their progress over the last decade." The screens changed to show human achievements: faster computers, better rockets, new medicines, nuclear power plants, weapons that could destroy whole cities. All of it developed in less than 100 years. "Look how fast they advance," Kethmos said. "Other species take thousands of years to go from simple tools to spaceflight. These humans did it in mere centuries." On another ship, made of living crystal that glowed with soft blue light, Resonance Prime Velana was having similar thoughts. Her people, the Morden Collective, were very different from the Vextar. They shared thoughts and feelings across their entire race. Each Morden was part of one giant mind. But humans confused them. Human minds were separate, chaotic, unpredictable. When the Morden tried to understand human thoughts, it gave them what they called static headaches. "The human pattern grows stronger," Velana told her crystal companions. Her voice sounded like music played through water. "Their individual minds create interference in our connection. We have never encountered a species so loud in their thinking." Back on the monitoring station, Wu Jin was getting more excited by the hour. The signals were definitely artificial, and they seemed to be coming from multiple sources. "Nari, I think there are several different types of signals, like different people using different languages." Dr. Kim Nari had been thinking the same thing. She had spent her whole life studying the possibility of alien life. Now it looked like her dreams might be real. "We need to report this to Earth Command." "Are you sure? What if we're wrong? What if it's just some new kind of space interference?" "Look at this pattern," Nari said, pointing to her screen. "It repeats every 12 hours, but with small changes each time. That's not interference. That's someone having conversations." Far above them, the alien watchers were indeed having conversations. But these conversations were about fear. "The humans have nuclear weapons," Kethmos was saying to other alien leaders through secure communications. "But they also use nuclear energy to power their cities. The same energy that destroys they use to heal their sick. What kind of species does this?" "A dangerous one," replied Commander Thorak of the Silicon Alliance, his rocky voice grinding like stones. "Our scientists studied their wars. They create terrible weapons, then use the same technology to feed their hungry and cure their diseases. This makes no sense." "It makes perfect sense if you understand their nature," said Velana. "They are contradiction beings. They hold opposite ideas in their minds at the same time. Love and hate, creation and destruction, hope and despair. Our minds cannot process such chaos." The alien leaders had been meeting like this for years, trying to decide what to do about Earth. Every time they thought they understood humans, the humans did something that surprised them. "Remember the atomic weapons," said Kethmos. 2 nations built enough bombs to destroy their whole planet. Then instead of destroying each other, they slowly agreed to reduce their weapons. They stepped back from total war because they were afraid of what they had created. "This proves our point," said Thorak. "They are too dangerous. A species that can destroy itself but chooses not to. What else are they capable of?" The aliens had studied human history carefully. They saw the wars, the violence, the terrible things humans did to each other. But they also saw the art, the music, the acts of kindness between strangers. They saw humans risk their lives to save animals they would never meet again. They saw human doctors treating enemies in wartime. "The psychological profiles make no sense," reported Dr. Vexlin, the chief analyst. "Individual humans can be gentle healers and fierce warriors at the same time. They cry when fictional characters die in their stories, but they also create entertainment about war and violence. We cannot predict their behavior." This unpredictability terrified the aliens. Their civilizations had survived by being careful, organized, and logical. They planned for centuries ahead. They avoided risks. They preferred peace through control and order. Humans seemed to prefer chaos and still somehow made progress. "What disturbs me most," said Velana, "is their curiosity. Other young species explore space to find resources or territory. Humans explore because they want to know what is out there. They send probes to places that have no value just to learn. What happens when this curiosity leads them to us?" On Earth, Wu Jin and Nari were about to find out. Jin had been working all night trying to decode the patterns in the alien signals. He had not expected to succeed. But suddenly one of the signals changed. Instead of the usual complex patterns, it became simple. Too simple. It was almost like, "Jin!" Nari shouted from across the room. "Look at screen 7. On the screen was a simple mathematical sequence. Prime numbers, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. Then it repeated, but backwards, 11, 7, 5, 3, 2. "Someone is trying to talk to us," Jin said quietly. Above them, on the Vextar command ship, alarms were ringing. "Sir," Zixtal reported, "the humans have detected our communication grid." Kethmos felt ice in his veins. "How?" "They used their monitoring equipment in a way we did not expect. They found patterns in our signal. Interference, shut down all communications, move the fleet to minimum power." But it was too late. On Earth, more monitoring stations were picking up the signals. Within hours, human governments would know they were not alone in the universe. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting that same day. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in secret. The question was no longer whether to make contact with humans. The question was whether humanity should be allowed to survive. Captain Park Do-hun stood on the bridge of the human exploration ship Terra Nova, watching the stars through the main window. 3 months had passed since Earth discovered the alien signals. Now, humanity had built its first faster-than-light ship and sent it out to find whoever was watching them. "Captain," called engineer Lee Suna from her station, "I'm getting some strange readings. There's something big about 2 light hours ahead." "Show me," Do-hun said. The main screen lit up with scanner data. 2 ships appeared on the display. One was huge and looked like it was made of dark metal with glowing lines running along its hull. The other was much smaller and seemed to be attacking the larger ship. "The big ship is damaged," reported Dr. Kang Minji, the mission's language expert. "I'm seeing explosions and debris." Do-hun made a quick decision. "Suna, can we reach them?" "Yes, but it will take us into the middle of whatever fight is happening there. Then that's where we're going. If someone needs help, we help them." The Terra Nova jumped to faster-than-light speed. Within minutes, they arrived at the battle scene. The small ship was firing strange energy weapons at the larger vessel. Pieces of hull were floating in space around them. On the large ship, Sub-Commander, Zixtal of the Vextar Empire was trying to keep his crew alive. Pirates from the Outer Rim had attacked his patrol ship. His weapons were damaged, his engines were failing, and 3 of his crew were badly hurt. "Sir," his communications officer said, "there's another ship approaching. It's not like anything in our databases." Zixtal looked at the scanner. The new ship was primitive compared to Vextar technology, but it was moving fast and seemed to be heading straight for them. Is it another pirate ship? I don't think so, sir. The design is completely different, and they're sending signals. On the Terra Nova, Dr. Kang Minji was working frantically at her station. Captain, I'm trying to translate their communications. The mathematics are similar to what we detected near Earth, but the language patterns are completely different. Keep working on it. Suna, what can you tell me about their weapons? Engineer Lee Suna studied her readings. The pirates are using some kind of plasma cannons. The big ship has better armor, but they're outnumbered and outgunned. They won't last much longer. Captain Park Do-hoon had never fired a shot in anger, but he had studied military history his whole life. Suna, can we modify our industrial lasers? For combat? Give me 5 minutes. Minji, try sending the universal peace signal, mathematical progression, prime numbers, anything that shows we're intelligent. Already on it, Captain. Suna worked quickly, redirecting power from the ship's mining equipment to the cutting lasers. They were not weapons, but in space, anything that could cut through metal could damage a ship. The pirate vessels were small and fast. They had been built for quick attacks on merchant ships, not for fighting multiple enemies. When the Terra Nova appeared and started firing precisely targeted laser beams, they were caught completely off guard. "What are they doing?" asked the pirate captain, watching his scanner. "Those aren't military-grade weapons. They're using mining tools." But the human lasers were cutting through his ship's armor with frightening precision. The Terra Nova moved in ways that made no sense to pirates used to fighting predictable alien military vessels. Instead of formal battle formations, the humans seemed to be making up their tactics as they went along. Captain Do-hoon was indeed making it up. "Suna, can you target their weapon systems without destroying their whole ship?" "I think so. These cutting beams are very precise." "Do it, and send a message to all pirate ships. Tell them to leave or we'll cut their ships into pieces." Dr. Kang. Minji had managed to create a basic translation program. "Captain, I can send simple concepts now. Mathematics, directions, basic warnings." The message went out in mathematical code. "Stop attacking. Leave now. We will defend the damaged ship." The pirate captain could not believe what he was reading. "They want us to leave? Who are these aliens? What species talks like this?" On the Vextar ship, Zixtal was equally confused. "They're protecting us? But they don't even know who we are." The battle did not last long. The pirates had expected an easy victory over a damaged patrol ship. They had not expected to fight unknown aliens using strange weapons and impossible tactics. After losing 2 ships to the precise laser fire, they decided to retreat. As soon as the pirates left, the Terra Nova approached the damaged Vextar vessel. Dr. Kang Minji sent another mathematical message. "Are you hurt? Do you need help?" Zixtal stared at the translation on his screen. In all his years of military service, no alien species had ever offered help without asking for something in return. "They want to help us," he told his crew. "No demands, no negotiation. Just help." Captain Park Do-hoon led a repair team to the Vextar ship. The airlocks were different, but human engineering was flexible. Engineer Lee Suna managed to create a connection between the ships. When the humans came aboard, the Vextar crew got their first close look at the species their leaders feared so much. The humans looked fragile compared to the insect-like Vextar, but they moved with confidence and purpose. Suna looked at the damaged Vextar systems and immediately started suggesting repairs. She could not understand their technology completely, but she could see what was broken and how it might be fixed. "Your power coupling is cracked," she told the Vextar engineer through Dr. Kang Minji's translation device. "We can't replace it, but we can reinforce it with metal strips from our ship." The Vextar engineer was amazed. These humans were offering to damage their own ship to help strangers. Dr. Kang Minji worked with the Vextar communications officer, trying to build a better translation system. She learned that the Vextar were part of something called the Galactic Council, and that they had been watching Earth for many years. "Why were you watching us?" she asked. The communications officer hesitated. How could he explain that his people feared humans? that the Council thought humans were too dangerous to be allowed into galactic society. Your species is unique, he said finally. The Council wanted to understand you before making contact. On the Terra Nova, Captain Dohun was talking to Zixtal through the translation system. Are there many species in this galactic council? Hundreds, Zixtal replied. We have worked together for thousands of years to maintain peace and order in the galaxy. That sounds wonderful. We've been hoping to find others like us. Zixtal looked at this human captain who had risked his ship to save strangers. Like you? Intelligent life. People who want to explore and learn and work together. The Yar. Words were translated accurately, but Zixtal could not understand them. Humans wanted to work together with aliens they had never met. They wanted to explore dangerous unknowns. They risked their lives for strangers without asking for payment. After 6 hours, the Vextar ship was repaired enough to travel safely. Zixtal prepared to leave, but he felt he owed these humans an explanation. Captain Park, he said through the translator, there is something you should know. The Galactic Council has been watching your world for many years. There are concerns about your species. What kind of concerns? Zixtal struggled to find the right words. Your people are very different from other species. Your minds work in ways that are difficult for us to understand. Some members of the Council believe that humans are too unpredictable to be part of galactic civilization. Captain Dohun was quiet for a long moment. What do you think? Before today, I agreed with the Council. But you saved my ship and my crew without asking for anything in return. You shared your resources with strangers. You fought pirates to protect people you had never met. Zixtal paused. Perhaps the Council does not understand humans as well as we thought. After the Vextar ship left, Dr. Kang Minji compiled her report for Earth. Captain, we've learned that we're not alone, but we may not be welcome. There's a galactic government out there and they're afraid of us. Afraid of us? Why? I'm not sure. But from what I could understand, they think we're dangerous. Engineer. Lee Suna looked up from her repairs. Dangerous? We just saved their ship. That might be exactly why they're afraid, Minji said quietly. Back on the Vextar command ship, Zixtal was making his own report to High Arbiter Kethmos, but he did not tell his commander about the humans' kindness or their willingness to help. Instead, he focused on their fighting ability. The humans defeated 3 pirate ships using mining equipment, he reported. They modified their tools into weapons in minutes. Their tactics were completely unpredictable. The pirates had no idea how to fight them. Kethmos listened with growing alarm. They turned industrial tools into weapons that quickly? Yes, sir. And their ship movements were unlike anything I've seen. They didn't follow any known combat patterns. This confirms our worst fears, Kethmos said. Humans don't just adapt to new situations. They thrive in them. They turn peaceful tools into weapons. They create tactics from nothing, and they're willing to fight for complete strangers. The report reached the Galactic Council within days. Emergency sessions were called on dozens of worlds. The message was clear. First contact with humans had occurred, and it had gone exactly as badly as they had feared. The humans had revealed themselves to be everything the aliens had worried about. Unpredictable, adaptable. The first sign of the void sickness appeared in the Kelleran system, 12 light-years from Earth. One day, the system was home to 6 billion silicon-based life forms living on crystalline worlds. The next day, there was nothing. Not destroyed. Not dead. Nothing. The space where planets had orbited their star was empty. The star itself still burned, but the worlds that had circled it for millions of years had simply stopped existing. Even the records of those worlds began to fade from databases across the galaxy. High Arbiter Kethma stood in his command center, staring at reports that made no sense. Show me the sensor data again, he ordered his aide. Sir, there is no sensor data. Our ships recorded the Kelleran system yesterday, but today those same recordings show empty space. It's as if the planets were never there. On her crystal ship, Resonance Prime Villana was experiencing something even more disturbing. 3 of her people had been visiting Kelleran when it disappeared. Now the Morden Collective could not remember them. There were gaps in their shared consciousness where those three minds should be. "We are losing ourselves," she sang to her companions, her musical voice filled with fear. "The void takes not just matter, but memory, but existence itself." Across the galaxy, similar reports began to arrive. The ethereal collective, beings of living gas who existed in the upper atmospheres of giant planets, reported that entire cities were vanishing. The mechanical species called the gear mines found that some of their processing centers had stopped existing, leaving holes in their calculations that they could not explain. Dr. Yexelin, the Vextar Empire's chief scientist, worked day and night trying to understand the phenomenon. "It spreads through quantum communication networks," she reported to the Galactic Council. "Whatever this is, it uses our own technology to move from system to system." "How fast is it spreading?" asked Commander Thorak of the Silicon Alliance. "Faster. Then we can track it. We lose contact with star systems before we can study what's happening to them." The Galactic Council held emergency sessions, but their usual careful planning was useless against something they could not understand. Every species tried their own solutions. The Vextar sent probe ships to study the affected areas, but the probes vanished before they could send back data. The Morden tried to use their collective consciousness to understand the pattern, but contact with the void-touched areas caused permanent damage to their shared minds. It was during one of these emergency sessions that High Arbiter Kethmos made a desperate suggestion. "We must consider contacting the humans," he said. The council chambers fell silent. For months they had been debating whether to destroy Earth or simply continue the quarantine. Now Kethmos was suggesting they ask for help from the species they feared most. "The humans?" said Commander Thorak. "The unpredictable ones? The violent ones?" "Yes," Kethmos replied. "The adaptable ones. Every species in this council approaches problems in predictable ways. We study, we plan, we implement carefully tested solutions. But this enemy destroys our ability to study it. Perhaps we need minds that think differently." Resonance Prime. Valana's crystal form glowed brighter. "The human thought patterns cause interference in our consciousness. Their minds are chaotic, contradictory. Perhaps this chaos can resist whatever is taking our worlds." The debate lasted for days, but the void sickness did not wait. 3 more systems vanished while the council argued. Finally, they agreed to make contact, but they would present it as a test. "If the humans can solve this crisis, we will consider allowing them to join galactic civilization," Kethmos announced. "If they cannot, we will know they are not ready for contact with advanced species." On Earth, Admiral Jeon Hyunsu received the strangest message in human history. It came through quantum channels that human science could barely detect, translated by computers into mathematical concepts that hurt to think about. "Greetings, humans of Earth. We are the Galactic Council. Your galaxy faces a crisis. We offer you the opportunity to prove your worthiness by helping us solve it. Accept this challenge and you may join the community of star-traveling species." The message included basic information about the void sickness and coordinates for the most recently affected systems. Dr. Shin Borum, Earth's leading expert on unusual diseases, studied the alien data with growing excitement and horror. "Admiral, this isn't a normal plague. It doesn't just kill living things, it makes them stop existing entirely." "What do you mean?" "I mean that according to this data, entire worlds are being erased from reality. Not destroyed, not killed. Erased. As if they never existed at all." Admiral John assembled Earth's best team. Dr. Shin Borum to study the plague itself, Engineer Yoon Taek to analyze the alien technology, and diplomat Choi Yoonji to handle communications with the Galactic Council. Their ship, the New Horizon, was humanity's most advanced vessel, but it looked primitive compared to the alien craft they encountered at the rendezvous point. Ships made of living crystal, metal that seemed to flow like water, and energy patterns that might have been vessels or might have been living beings. Choi Yoonji established communication with the alien representatives. "We are here to help," she said through the translation systems. Show us what you know about this plague. The aliens shared their data, but they were surprised by the human response. Instead of studying the information carefully and developing a single plan, the humans seemed to approach the problem from dozens of directions at once. Dr. Shin Borum studied the medical aspects, but she also looked at the philosophical implications. If something can make worlds stop existing, we need to understand what existence means, she told her team. Engineer Yoon Taek examined the quantum mechanics, but he also considered the psychological effects on the survivors. The plague doesn't just take matter, he noted. It takes memory and meaning. That suggests it operates on levels beyond the physical. The aliens watched in confusion as the humans seemed to pursue every possible line of research simultaneously. They talked to philosophers and physicists, artists and mathematicians. They approached the problem as if it were not one question but hundreds of questions all connected together. They have no focus, complained Dr. Vexlin to her Vextar colleagues. How can they solve anything when they refuse to concentrate on a single approach? But the humans were making progress in ways the aliens could not recognize. While the Galactic Council's scientists worked in isolation, each species using their own methods, the humans created something unprecedented. They shared everything with everyone. Dr. Shin Borum broadcast her findings to every alien ship in the fleet. Engineer Yoon Taek's theories were distributed to scientists across a dozen species. Diplomat Choi Yoonji established communication networks that allowed researchers from completely different civilizations to work together for the first time in galactic history. What are they doing? Asked Resonance Prime Velana, watching the flood of human communications. They are making us all part of their thinking process, replied technician Ryu Jiwon, the human liaison assigned to the Mordun ship. On Earth, we call it crowdsourcing. The idea is that many minds working together can solve problems that individual minds cannot. The Mordun found this concept fascinating, but terrifying. Their collective consciousness was built on harmony and agreement. The human approach seemed to thrive on disagreement and contradiction. You allow different people to have completely opposite ideas? Velana asked. Of course, Ryu said. Some of our best solutions come from combining ideas that seem to contradict each other. As the research continued, a pattern began to emerge. The void sickness was not a biological plague or even a physical phenomenon. It was something much stranger. Dr. Shin Borum made the breakthrough while working with Phase Walker Morgan, a representative of the ethereal collective. It's informational, she realized. The plague spreads through communication networks, but it doesn't destroy information. It destroys the concept of existence itself. I do not understand, Morgan replied, his gaseous form shifting colors. To show confusion. Think of it like this, Shin explained. Reality is like a story that the universe tells itself. The void sickness erases parts of that story. Not just the words, but the memory that those words ever existed. Engineer Yoon Taek joined the conversation. That's why it spreads through quantum communication. It's not transmitting a virus or a signal. It's transmitting doubt, uncertainty about whether something really exists. The alien scientists struggled to understand this concept. Their civilizations were built on certainty, on fixed laws and predictable outcomes. The idea that reality itself could be uncertain was terrifying to them. But for humans, uncertainty was familiar. Human philosophy had wrestled with questions of existence for thousands of years. Human psychology was comfortable with paradox and contradiction. We might be naturally resistant to this plague, Dr. Shin Borum realized, not because of our biology, but because of how we think. The tests proved her right. When exposed to void-touched materials, alien minds became confused and began to doubt their own existence. But human minds, already comfortable with uncertainty, remained stable. Captain Kim Jae-woo, leading the human research fleet, made the final connection. We can't cure this plague because it's not really a disease. It's a way of thinking. Dr. Shin Borum stood before the assembled representatives of the Galactic Council, knowing that what she was about to propose would sound impossible to them. Around her, dozens of alien species waited in their various forms, crystalline beings that hummed with shared thoughts, insect-like creatures with multiple eyes, gaseous entities that shifted colors with emotion, and mechanical minds that processed information in perfect logic. "The void sickness cannot be cured," she began, "because it is not a disease. It is a way of thinking that destroys the foundation of thought itself." High Arbiter Kethmos clicked his mandibles impatiently. "We understand this, Dr. Shin. You have explained it before. What we need is a solution." "The solution is to change how we think about existence," Shin replied. "But this requires us to do something that may be very difficult for your species." "What is that?" asked Resonance Prime Villana, her crystal form glowing with curiosity. "You must learn to think like humans." The council chamber erupted in confusion. Multiple species began communicating at once, their various forms of speech creating a chaos of sound and light. The Vexstar clicked rapidly, the Mordun crystals chimed in discord, and the Silicon Alliance representatives ground out words like rocks tumbling down a mountain. Commander Thorak was the first to speak clearly. "You suggest that we abandon millions of years of evolutionary development to think like a species that has barely left its home planet?" "Yes," Dr. Shin said simply, "because your way of thinking makes you vulnerable to the void sickness, and our way of thinking makes us resistant to it." Technician Ryu Jiwan, who had been working with the Morden researchers, stepped forward with data displays. "We've run tests on representatives from every species here. When exposed to void-touched materials, your minds begin to doubt fundamental concepts. You question whether mathematics is real, whether your memories are accurate, whether you yourselves exist." "And humans do not experience this?" asked Phase Walker Morgan. "Oh, we do," Ryu said with a smile that confused the aliens. "But we're used to it. Human philosophers have been questioning the nature of reality for thousands of years. We call it existential anxiety, and we've learned to live with it." Dr. Shin activated a holographic display showing human brain scans. "When humans encounter the void sickness, our minds respond differently. We don't try to resolve the contradiction between existence and non-existence. We accept that both might be true at the same time." "That is impossible," stated Dr. Vexlin. "Something either exists or it does not. There is no middle ground." "There is for humans," said Engineer Yoon Taek, joining the presentation. "We routinely hold contradictory ideas in our minds. We know that light is both a wave and a particle. We understand that time moves differently depending on your reference point. We accept that we are both individuals and part of larger communities." The alien representatives struggled to process this information. Their civilizations had evolved to value consistency, logic, and certainty. The idea of deliberately maintaining contradictory thoughts felt like mental illness to them. Captain Kim Jae-woo had been working with mixed human-alien crews for weeks, and he had seen the problem firsthand. "Your minds are like perfectly organized libraries," he explained to the council. "Everything has its place. Every piece of information fits logically with every other piece. But the void sickness is like a book that says, 'This library does not exist.' Your organized minds cannot process that contradiction, so they break down." "And human minds?" asked Sub-Commander Zixtal, who had been following the research closely since his encounter with the Terra Nova. "Human minds are like messy workshops," Kim said. "We have tools scattered everywhere, half-finished projects, ideas that don't quite fit together. When something tells us we don't exist, we just put that idea on the pile with all the other confusing things and keep working." The aliens found this comparison disturbing rather than encouraging. Diplomat Choi Yoonji had been working to establish better communication between species, and she understood their concern. "I know this sounds chaotic to you," she said gently, "but chaos is not the same as randomness. Human thinking is flexible, not broken. We can believe in something while simultaneously doubting it. This lets us function even when we're not sure what's real." The practical demonstration began on the research station orbiting the void-touched Kelleran system. Dr. Shin Borum had volunteers from each species work with human trainers to practice paradoxical thinking. The results were mixed and often amusing. The Vextar with their logical insect minds found it almost impossible to hold contradictory ideas. When engineer Yoon Taek tried to teach them that something could be both true and false, several of them developed what Dr. Shin diagnosed as cognitive seizures. Try thinking of it as a story, suggested Dr. Park Min-hee, a human psychologist brought in to help with the training. Stories can be fictional and true at the same time. They describe things that never happened, but they tell us about real emotions and experiences. The Vextar struggled with this concept until one of them, a young engineer named Kextal, suddenly understood. Ah, like our battle simulations. The events in the simulation are not real, but the lessons we learn are real. Exactly, Dr. Park said, delighted. Now apply that thinking to existence itself. Maybe the universe is real, maybe it's a simulation, maybe it's something else entirely. All of those can be true at the same time. The Morden Collective had different problems. Their shared consciousness meant that doubt from one individual spread to all of them. When one Morden began to question reality, the entire collective began to destabilize. Technician Ryu Ji-won worked with Resonance Prime Velana to develop a solution. You need to create separate spaces in your collective mind, she explained. Areas where individuals can have private doubts without affecting everyone else. But that goes against our entire nature, Velana replied. We are one mind in many bodies. Then maybe you need to become many minds that choose to work together, Ryu suggested. Like a human family or team. We're connected, but we're also separate. The training process was slow and often frustrating. The mechanical gear minds kept trying to resolve paradoxes with pure logic. The gaseous ethereal collective found that doubt made their molecular bonds unstable. The Silicon Alliance representatives literally cracked under the stress of contradictory thoughts. But gradually, some individuals from each species began to adapt. They learned to hold uncertainty without being paralyzed by it. They practiced believing in their own existence while acknowledging that existence might be an illusion. The first real test came when Captain Kim Jae-woo led a mixed crew to a void-touched system. The human crew members functioned normally, but the alien crew members who had not received training began to show signs of void exposure immediately. I can't remember why we came here, said a Vextar navigator, staring at his instruments in confusion. I'm not sure the ship is real, whispered a Morden engineer, causing her crystal form to dim. But the aliens who had trained with humans responded differently. They acknowledged their doubts but continued working anyway. I don't know if this mission is real, said Kextal, the Vextar engineer. But I will complete it as if it is real because that is what a real person would do. I am uncertain about my existence, sang harmony singer Velthara, a Mordun who had worked closely with human trainers. But I will act with purpose regardless, because purpose gives meaning to existence, whether existence is real or not. The breakthrough came when Dr. Shin Borum realized they could use this trained flexibility to actually push back against the void sickness. Instead of trying to cure it, they could teach it to coexist with normal reality. The void doesn't destroy things, she explained to the research team. It makes them uncertain, but if we can be comfortable with uncertainty, we can function in void-touched areas. The plan was ambitious beyond anything the galaxy had ever attempted. Instead of quarantining void-touched systems, they would send in mixed crews trained in human-style thinking. These crews would not try to restore the missing worlds, that was impossible. Instead, they would establish new realities in the void-touched spaces. We will build new worlds in places where worlds have been erased, announced Admiral John Hyunsu to the Galactic Council. Not physical worlds, but conceptual ones. We will create meaning in meaninglessness, existence in non-existence, the E. Aliens found this proposal either brilliant or insane, and many could not decide which. The first void-touched system they attempted to reclaim was Kelleron. Captain Kim Jae-woo led a fleet of ships crewed by humans and trained aliens. As they entered the system, reality began to become uncertain around them. Sensors show empty space, reported Kextal, but I choose to believe there are planets here that we simply cannot detect yet. My collective is experiencing static, sang Velthara, but I will interpret this static as the songs of a world waiting to be born. Slowly, carefully, the mixed crews began to establish a new kind of existence in the void-touched space. They could not bring back what was lost, but they could create something new, something that existed in the space between certainty and doubt. It was working, but the process was slow and required constant effort. The galaxy would need thousands of trained crews and decades of work to reclaim all the void-touched systems. 2 years after the first void-touched system was reclaimed, President Lim So-young stood in the Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council, watching as representatives from hundreds of species debated humanity's role in their civilization. But this was not the debate anyone had expected. The aliens were not deciding whether to accept humans into their community. They were begging humans to save it. "The void sickness has been contained," announced High Arbiter Kethmos, his insect-like form clicking nervously as he addressed the assembly. "But it has not been destroyed. Our scientists estimate that without constant monitoring by human-trained crews, it could return and spread again within a generation." More concerning, added Resonance Prime Villana, her crystal form glowing with worried colors, "our own populations are showing signs of reality fatigue. The mental flexibility required to resist the void is exhausting for our species. We cannot maintain it without continuous support." President Lim listened to the translations with a mixture of pride and concern. Humanity had solved the galaxy's greatest crisis, but the solution had created a new kind of dependency. Alien civilizations that had existed for thousands of years now needed human guidance to maintain their basic sense of reality. "What exactly are you proposing?" she asked the council. Commander Thorak of the Silicon Alliance spoke first, his rocky voice grinding with reluctance. "We propose that humanity become the galaxy's immune system. Your people would be permanently stationed throughout our civilizations, not as rulers or subjects, but as guardians of reality itself." The terms they offered were unprecedented in galactic history. Humans would not be junior members of the Galactic Council. They would be equal, partners with a special role. Human colonies would be established in every major star system. Human philosophy and psychology would become required subjects in alien schools. Human cultural products would be distributed across the galaxy as mental flexibility training. Dr. Han Ji-young, who had become the galaxy's leading expert on what aliens called cognitive adaptability, explained the science behind the proposal. "Different species think in different ways," she told the assembly. "Your minds evolved for specific environments and challenges. Humans evolved in a chaotic environment with constant change and uncertainty. This makes our thinking naturally resistant to existential threats." "But it's not just resistance," added Commander Bei Minho, who led the newly formed Paradox Corps, mixed units of humans and aliens trained to handle reality-threatening situations. "Human thinking is actively stabilizing. When humans are present in a community, they help other species maintain mental flexibility without breaking down." The evidence supported this claim. Star systems with permanent human populations showed no signs of void sickness recurring. More importantly, these systems were thriving in ways that surprised everyone. The combination of alien technical expertise and human adaptability was producing innovations that neither species could achieve alone. On the Vextar homeworld, human-trained engineers worked with insectoid mathematicians to design ships that could function in both normal space and void-touched areas. The logical Vextar provided precision and reliability, while their human partners contributed creative problem-solving and the ability to work with incomplete information. "We call them maybe ships," explained engineer Kim Subin to a group of visiting dignitaries. "They exist in multiple quantum states simultaneously. In normal space, they function as regular vessels. In void-touched space, they adapt to whatever reality happens to be present." "But how can a ship exist in multiple states?" asked a confused Mordoon observer. "The same way light can be both a wave and a particle," Kim replied with a smile. "By not insisting that it has to be only one thing." The cultural exchange was even more dramatic than the technological collaboration. Human entertainment, movies, music, games, and stories spread across the galaxy like a beneficial infection. Alien species discovered that human fiction helped train their minds for paradoxical thinking. Dr. Cho Jin-suk, now director of the Institute of Human Studies on the Morden homeworld, found that alien students learned fastest through human storytelling techniques. Stories let them practice believing in impossible things in a safe environment, she explained. A Vextar can read about wizards and magic while knowing that magic isn't real. This trains their minds to hold contradictory concepts without breaking down. The Morden, with their collective consciousness, found human music particularly helpful. Harmony singer Velthara, now working closely with human cultural specialists, discovered that human songs often contained contradictory emotions: happiness and sadness, love and loss, hope and despair all mixed together. Human music teaches us that minds can contain multitudes, she sang to her crystal companions. We have learned to create harmony from discord, to find beauty in chaos. Not all the changes were easy. Some alien species struggled more than others with the new way of thinking. The mechanical gear minds, built for pure logic, sometimes suffered what Dr. Hahn called paradox overload. Special support programs had to be established to help them process contradictory information without shutting. Bound, the ethereal collective faced different challenges. Their gaseous forms were physically affected by strong emotions, and the intense feelings generated by paradoxical thinking sometimes caused them to lose molecular cohesion. Human specialists worked with them to develop emotional regulators, techniques, for experiencing uncertainty without destabilizing. But the most significant changes happened in galactic governance itself. The old Galactic Council had made decisions through careful consensus, with each species contributing their expertise to create perfectly logical solutions. This process was slow but reliable. The new system, influenced by human approaches, was faster but more chaotic. Problems were approached from multiple angles simultaneously. Contradictory solutions were tested in parallel. Failed experiments were celebrated as learning opportunities rather than disasters. "It's messier," admitted Admiral Park Sun-ho, daughter of the captain who had first encountered aliens and now commander of the Galactic Defense Fleet. "But it's also more robust. When one approach fails, we have 10 others ready to try." The ultimate test came when a new threat emerged from the galactic rim. Not another void sickness, but something the scouts called the Order Storm. It was the opposite of the chaos that had created the void. A wave of absolute certainty that made reality rigid and unchangeable. "It's like the void sickness, but reversed," reported Dr. Shin Borum, now elderly but still leading research into existential threats. Instead of erasing things, it locks them into single permanent states. Worlds touched by the Order Storm cannot change, cannot adapt, cannot grow. The Order Storm was beautiful in its way: perfect crystal structures, flawless mathematical patterns, absolute stability. But it was also death by perfection. Life required change, growth, adaptation. Perfect order was as destructive as perfect chaos. The Galactic Council's response to this new crisis showed how much had changed. Instead of forming committees and conducting careful studies, they immediately launched dozens of different approaches simultaneously. Human-trained crews tested direct intervention. Alien scientists studied the phenomenon from safe distances. Cultural specialists examined whether the storm might be influenced by art and stories. Commander Bae Minho led the most successful mission, taking a paradox core unit directly into an order storm. His crew was carefully balanced. Humans who thrived in uncertainty, Vextar who provided logical frameworks, Morden who could maintain emotional stability, and representatives from a dozen other species. "The storm wants everything to be perfect," he reported back to headquarters. "But perfection is boring. We're fighting it by being deliberately imperfect." His crew scattered contradictions throughout the storm-touched systems like seeds. They told unfinished stories, played music with deliberate mistakes, built structures that were almost but not quite symmetrical. Slowly, the rigid perfection began to crack, allowing change and growth to return. The success against the Order Storm proved what humanity had suspected. The galaxy needed not just human adaptability, but the combination of human chaos with alien expertise. Neither could solve these cosmic problems alone, but together they were incredibly powerful. 5 years after first contact, President Lim So-young stood again before the Galactic Assembly, but now she was not representing just Earth. She was the first human chancellor of the Galactic Alliance, a new organization that replaced the old council. "We have learned that the universe is not a stable place," she told the assembly. "It is full of contradictions, paradoxes, and impossible situations. Our survival depends not on creating perfect order, but on maintaining perfect flexibility." The Alliance now included over 1,000 species, with humans serving as what they officially called cognitive stabilizers, but what everyone had started calling reality guardians. Every major world had human populations, not as conquerors or rulers, but as partners who helped maintain the mental flexibility needed to survive in an uncertain universe. Human colonies specialized in different types of cognitive support. Some focused on crisis response, training mixed crews to handle new existential threats. Others worked on cultural development, helping alien species adapt.